Often, the problem within relationships is not about how we communicate to each other. It's how we talk about people within the relationship to other people. So today I'm going to talk to you about triangulation and the negative effects that can have on a relationship. Firstly, what is triangulation? Well, triangulation is where you have two people, and instead of communicating between you to sort it out, you bring in a third party. And often when the communication is spoken to with the third party, it's exaggerated truths or lies. And the third party starts to make up negative opinions of the person that you're talking about. So let me give you an example. Jenny and Andy are in a relationship, but Jenny starts to notice that the balance is a little bit off. She's doing more of the household duties. She's getting the dinner ready. She's getting the kids ready for bed. She's getting them up in the morning. Whereas Andy's got himself into a bit of a negative routine. He goes to work, but then he comes home and he starts gaming all night. There's reducing interaction between him and the kids, and he's not really having much of a relationship with Jenny either. So he's just got himself into a bit of a bad flow. Jenny brings this up with him, and she says, "Look, Andy, there's been something on my mind for a while, and I feel like the balance is a little bit off within the house, and I think you could be doing a little bit more." So Andy just replies to her and he says, "No, I don't think that's the case. I just come home and I need to relax for a little bit." And later on that evening, he goes to his friend Joe's house. So he says to Joe, "Yeah, Joe, she's on my case again. Yeah, this time she's telling me that I'm lazy, that I'm not helping out, that I don't talk to the kids, that I'm not doing anything, and that all I do is just sit on the sofa all day," which is not true. I'm helping out around the house, I'm talking to the kids, I'm doing stuff. And this is where it starts to turn. Because instead of talking to Joe in a way that gets some insight and advice, he's actually venting and casting a negative view on Jenny. And actually, he's making up lies. She never said that he was lazy. She never said any of that. In fact, they didn't get further into the conversation than her bringing it up. Let's look at how it feels for all of the people involved. Firstly, for Jenny, it's a bit unfair. She feels like she's unfairly treated. Let's be honest. She feels unfairly treated, and that to her can damage the relationship because she doesn't know how to talk now. She doesn't know if what she's going to say to Andy is going to be passed on to Joe or anyone else. So there's a bit of a breakdown in trust for her there. And the other part of the unfair treatment is what Andy said to Joe is completely not true. It's not how it was said, and it wasn't her intention. Yeah, she just wanted the relationship to get back into a state of fairness. So she doesn't feel good about that at all. What about Andy? Why did Andy do that in the first place? Well, most likely it activated his shame. That's a lot of the times when people start talking negatively about other people, it's because their shame is activated. They feel embarrassed, they feel caught out, they feel exposed. And instead of just apologizing, a lot of the time they've brought up this defense which allows them to save face. Unfortunately, they don't do that within the relationship. They do that to third parties. But it still allows them to feel good and feel better about themselves because they're getting that validation. So because Joe is giving him that validation that he's a good person, he's doing a lot, and he's got Andy's back and all stuff like that, he feels better about himself. Of course, when he goes back home, he might start to feel like the victim, and he might start to punish Jenny for even bringing it up in the first place. And this is where a lot of the other problems come in. And it often starts with triangulation. Let's talk about Joe now. First of all, Joe doesn't want to hear all of this negative stuff. He wants a good time. He's more than happy to talk about the relationship and give advice, but he doesn't want to be the emotional backpack of the negative baggage that Andy is bringing to him. Now, everyone is more than entitled to get insight and advice on their relationship. I'm not saying that can't be done. But how we communicate the problems within our relationship is very important, Because one way is venting, one way is triangulation, one way is making the other person look bad, often so that we can make ourselves look better. And that is not the way to do it. A good way to get advice and insight on our relationship is to communicate effectively. So we talk about our emotions and how we feel. We don't necessarily need to give details. So how could Andy have put that across to Joe in a better way? Well, he could have gone to Joe and he could have said, Andy, Jenny's come to me and said that I'm not really pulling my weight around the house. And she might have a point, but I just want to run it by you and see what your advice is. That is a very good way to put it across to Joe, because now he can ask questions and he can give some proper advice and insight, rather than being twisted and manipulated into casting a negative opinion on Jenny. You see, you have to understand that when we triangulate, we're not only damaging the relationship that we're talking about specifically, we're actually damaging the relationship of the people that we're talking to. Because like I said, they don't want to be the carrier of that emotional baggage. They don't want to be listening to all that negative energy. People just want to live their lives and they want to help in a way that they can. So if you feel that from time to time you do triangulate, my advice is just to reframe how you're talking about the people that you want to talk about. Talk about the emotions, talk about your experience rather than the details. Let's be respectful to the people that we're talking about and respect the privacy of the relationship as well. No one wants to air out all of their dirty laundry in public. And for the people that are being triangulated, maybe just calmly raise this and say, you can talk about problems within the relationship in a respectful way together. It's all about being calm, kind, and respectful to each other. And that's how relationships win.